Hello, everyone. Big news. Like Mother Like Murder is heading to CrimeCon London on October 3rd and 4th, 2026. I will be there as a featured creator, meeting you in person and talking all things mom related true crime. Heather will be sending all of her vibes from sunny California and hopes she will be able to make it next year. As for this year, though, Like Mother Like Murder does have a special discount code for you, which is LMLM10 for 10% off of your tickets. Again, that is LMLM10. And that is live right now for all of our amazing listeners. And exclusively for our Patreon members, we will be adding a special code in there for you. Go grab your tickets right now. The link for your discount code is in the show notes. I cannot wait to see you in London. Okay, love you. Bye. Hello, and welcome to Like Mother Like Murder, your true crime momcast.
Where we will cover missing moms, murdered moms, moms who commit the crime, survivors, and more.
We will be getting straight into the case right off the bat, but be sure to stick around for the afterthoughts as we unpack it all together and then spend a little time just talking mom to mom. Before we get into today's case, I am actually going to kind of pass the mic to Heather to explain the Alford plea to us because that is a very big, significant part of what we will be talking about. So we're going to pass that over to Heather.
Okay. So I the first time I heard of the Alford plea was actually in the case of Michael Peterson, which is the infamous staircase case, right? And basically what the Alford plea is a defendant will plead guilty in the grand scheme of things, they plead guilty, but they also at the same time maintain their innocence. Basically, they're saying, I'm innocent. I didn't do this, but I acknowledge that the prosecution has enough evidence against me that I would probably get convicted. So, in this, which I don't even understand why it's allowed to be a thing. It's like if you're pleading guilty,
Right.
you're freaking guilty. Like,
Exactly.
but basically a lot of like the reason that people would use the Alford plea is because it's kind of in their best interest, because in this situation they're pleading out to avoid harsher sentence, right? Like if you plead out, maybe you don't get life without parole, maybe you get life, or maybe you don't get the death sentence, you just get life without parole, or your sentence is usually lower when you plead guilty. But it's a little bit of a cop out because at the same time you're saying, okay, I'll just plead guilty, but I really am not.
Yeah, I don't think it's
But
a
the
little
only
bit of a cop out in my opinion. I feel
Yeah.
like it's not only such a ridiculous thing for so many reasons, but it continuously brings me to the families and the people who have fought for
Right.
answers and fought for justice and just a slap across the face.
100%.
It
Because
sucks.
it's a defendant's way of saying like, hey, I didn't do it, but there's enough evidence that I did it, so I'm just gonna say fine, I did it, even though I didn't actually do it. And it's kind of just like, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's just kind of like, I don't even know why it's allowed, but
Right.
that's what an Alford plea is.
Well, thank you so much for that, Heather. That's an important part of today's case because it saddens me to say that the person responsible for the murder of Ella Diebolt Jackson just entered an Alford plea. And his formal sentencing is going to take place this month that this episode is being released, March 2026, for the murder of his wife back in 2019. We're going to get into all of that. But first, we're going to go back to the beginning of the end. In 2019, Ella was married to Glenn Jackson, living in Richmond, Kentucky, with their 5-year-old son. What Glenn says about Ella's last known day is that Ella told him that she needed some time and asked him to take their son out for a little while, and that when Glenn came back home, Ella was gone. This was on October 20th, 2019. 2 days later is when Glenn reported his wife missing, October 22nd, 2019. Ella was 47 at the time that she was reported missing. And like I quickly mentioned at the beginning, she was in a relationship with Glenn and she had her little boy, who was just 5 at this time. And from all accounts, her little boy was her world. She also had an older son from a previous relationship. He was an adult at the time, and she talked to him every single day. Being a mom was so important to her, and the love she had for her children is just one of the reasons that everyone that knew her and loved her knew she wouldn't walk away from them. And I say all that knew and loved her because the one who claims she did walk away was her husband. And it's very clear he did not love Ella. From what we know from the details of this case and from what is found out throughout the investigation, Ella and Glenn were not at a good point in their marriage. They were at the point in their marriage where statistically it is proven that abuse, physical violence, and even murder happen the most. The point of leaving. This behavior does not typically happen or begin overnight. It's usually ongoing, a buildup, escalation even. And we know that when it comes to Ella, she was going through something horrific in the home and that it wasn't a sudden situation. Ella had confided in people and told them about the alleged abuse that was happening within the walls of her home and within her loveless marriage. Ella had previous relationships, and she had been in a domestic violence situation before. Ella Diebolt was born in Russia, where she grew up, and she fled to Ukraine when she was leaving a domestic violence relationship. From there, she made her way to the States, trying to start over and find good. She got married to a man named Jason Hans, and this marriage also did come to an end. But from Jason's recount, it was amicable. It was filled with the love of friendship and support and being there for one another. They were no longer in love, but they had love for each other, and so they chose to separate. Ella and Jason still had a great relationship, even as divorcees, and she confided in him, telling him of her fears and what was going on. These are just a few of the texts that she sent Jason. Quote, I am being awakened at almost 3 in the morning and dragged through the house, end quote. And the last one, quote, I am very worried about my child and myself, end quote. And similar to many others that we talk about, Ella was afraid to leave because of what could happen and because of her son and his safety. And,
Yep.
that was at the forefront of her mind. In just 3 days before Ella was last seen or heard from, she was working on her exit plan. Ella had met with not only a divorce attorney, but a domestic violence victims advocate. She was making moves to try to get out when this scumbag took that freedom of choice away from her. Glenn Jackson was a professor at Eastern Kentucky University, right down the street from where they lived, where he taught English. They had met in the education world as Ella had worked as a Russian translator for universities and other companies over the years, and she was also an artist. He would go stand in front of his college classes, teach, and then go home and be this horrible, horrible person. And that horrible hit its peak on October 20th, 2019. We still don't know what happened inside the walls of the home that day, but we do know that this was a home where a 5-year-old little boy was living, and a fearful wife was trying to leave with a well-thought-out plan, and that was taken from her. October 22nd, Ella was reported missing by Glenn. He told the police about the fact that she said she needed some time and that when him and their son got home, she wasn't there. The investigation begins, and her oldest son, in a very early interview, explains that she has never left, not even for a night, and this was completely unlike her. He shared with the interviewer that Ella had sent a picture from her phone of her walking her dog at Million Park, which is right by her house. And this picture was sent around 1:30 p.m. on October 20th, and that was the last communication between the two of them. Then, come to find out, Ella is missing, yet her car is home, her purse, her wallet, her keys, everything she needs is at home. Even her phone that she used to send the text to her son, just not her.
Red flag. Like that. If, first of all, if they're telling you, like this is not like her, she doesn't leave. And then on top of that, it's like anything she would take with her is there. Like, how is she going anywhere? Would she just walk away?
Right.
Like, come on.
Right. Especially, when I think about it, Glenn Jackson tells these people, like, oh, she must have just left. She must have just left, as if it was like a willing thing. See, I could see the if you're trying to make up a story, an abduction, maybe, then you
Sure.
don't have
Yeah.
your things. But none of that even matters because none of that is true when it comes to this whatsoever.
Mhm.
And also the phone situation, like I you know, this is just a thought that I had in my head, but in the photo that was sent, you can't see Ella in this photo. You just see the dog on the leash at the park. So I've had so many like times where I was like, did Glenn just send this as like a
Right.
something to the son since who knows exactly what happened and when it happened. And over the next few months, there's nothing. Nothing that would show she just up and left. No one saw her. No one heard from her. No activity on her banking accounts, her phone, her social media. Nothing. And then in April of 2020, on April 25th, 6 months later, Glenn Jackson was arrested and charged with murder, domestic violence, and evidence tampering in connection to the disappearance of Ella Diebolt Jackson. One of the reasons being they found significant amount of blood in the trunk of Glenn's car that came back a positive match of Ella's. 4 days later, on April 29th, a search team finds remains right near or on property that Glenn Jackson happened to own in Pulaski County, which is about an hour away from their home. The remains came back a positive match for Ella. The exact cause of death could not be determined, but the medical examiner noted a skull fracture and ruled her death a homicide by undetermined means. Now, Heather, I am going to ask you to read just a portion of an article I found that sickens me to my core.
A former EKU lecturer charged with murder, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence connected to his wife's murder could soon be out on house arrest. Last week, a judge granted Glenn Jackson's motion for reduced bond. If he pays the $150,000 bond, the judge will release him on home incarceration. Fucking murder? Are you joking me?
Ugh.
Jackson, who taught at EKU for 5 years, was arrested 6 months after Ella Jackson disappeared. Days later, her skeletal remains were found in rural Pulaski County. Jackson told Lex 18 last October that his wife left him. He has claimed his innocence all along and is currently fighting his charges.
Yeah, so go ahead and speak on that. How does that make you feel?
How is a murderer, and not just like, okay, not just like any, like, this is a man who they're charging him with all those things, domestic violence, all of it. He's clearly a danger to society. This
Oh, yeah,
isn't
for
a
sure.
this isn't a, you know, I mean, not that murder is ever okay, but this isn't like self-defense. This isn't like, a crime of passion. This isn't like this man is a danger to society. Please tell me they at least took the 5-year-old and like he shouldn't be.
Yeah, they
Because
did.
that's absolutely insane that they're like, yeah, sure, murderer who brutally not only murdered her, I guess we have to say allegedly,
Mhm.
murdered her, but then also allegedly went and got rid of all of these horrible things. Yeah, sure, go ahead and go home
And lied about it, right? Like,
and
totally
lied about it.
told them, "No, she just took off."
Go
It's every
home.
single
Yeah,
thing.
you deserve the comforts of your home. No,
House
absolutely
arrest, but
not.
also this judge grants a reduced bond. Are you freaking kidding me? Every single thing about this is wrong.
100%.
It's insane. And even if you think, and I don't know how you could think this, that I can't even finish that sentence because there's just no logical way to say
I know
any of
what
it.
you were trying. Like, I could see where
But
your mind
no.
is going because you, like, both of us do try to be like, well, what's the.
Right.
There's not in this
No.
situation. There's
No.
not a devil's advocate. There's not a other side in this situation.
Yeah.
The guy
So,
deserves to be behind bars, not seeing the
right.
light of day.
Reduced bond, house arrest, okay,
Bullshit.
for a murder. That's exactly what happened. And of course, his trial date got pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And so it was 6 years later that this trial was set to take place. So he was out on house arrest for 6 years.
Yeah,
And I mean,
let's
there
just
were
let this
these
murderer live his
right.
life for 6. Are you kidding me?
And I mean, his house arrest and his situation, he was given these rules to follow. Do murderers follow rules? Like, I'm sorry, why are we
Clearly
even
not.
thinking that this is a thing? So, I don't know, it's crazy. So, February 2026, just last month, trial was set, and before they could head to court for the murder trial of his wife, Glenn Jackson entered an Alford plea to manslaughter, where he is given, like Heather said earlier, the ability to maintain his innocence while knowing that the court had more than enough evidence to convict him in this trial. Now, Glenn Jackson's sentencing date is scheduled for March 12th, which is just in 2 days from when this episode is being released. So I want to say I will absolutely have more to say on this. So we will be back with another mini-sode of some sort at some point in the near future. But Heather and everyone listening, the maximum sentencing for Glenn Jackson is just 14 years. The maximum, okay? And they would take into account his 6 years of house arrest as time served.
Stop
Meaning,
it! No!
meaning the most he would be behind bars would only be 8 years if he gets
For
the
taking
maximum.
another person's life? Are you freaking
Yes.
kidding me?
No.
This is exactly what is wrong with the fucking world. Like, this is.
This blows my mind I mean, this was his wife. He lied. He disposed of her body, allegedly everything. But there's all these things. And yet you allow him to enter this Alford plea. Why is this? My mind is just, I'm beside myself right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is absolutely the fact that this man, this not even man,
No.
subhuman,
Right.
is a violent person.
Right.
Evidence of domestic violence.
It's another thing. Like the fact, okay, I'm sorry, she was actively working on that. So it's not like, oh, it was a crime of passion, or he never has any this or that, right, in his past. And maybe there was never anything that was, maybe there weren't house calls or
Yeah, like,
reports
even
made that she did.
maybe it
But she
wasn't
was
documented.
actively
But the
working with
Mhm,
a domestic violence advocate. And you want to tell
exactly.
me that, oh, it's fine. He can be out because he's not a danger. He's a freaking danger. Sorry. I just had to speak over
But
you.
but that's exactly it, and this is, like, why and what you said at the beginning is so true, Rachel, because you're right, she was in that position where statistically shit hits the fan,
Right.
right? And you're doing your damnedest and you're doing things right. And you're trying to make sure you use the resources that we try to provide to these women. And then this is what happens. And then what a fucking slap in the face to every single
Yeah.
a human being, just as a human being, you should see this as a slap in the face when someone was trying to do things right, when someone was trying to get herself into a situation where she could do better for herself, for her kid, and just like everything. And then he turns around. Not only does he do the most despicable thing, but then he's basically getting a slap on the fucking wrist for it.
Right. Yeah.
Are you joking?
I'm not. It is a joke. This whole thing is
Oh,
absolutely
100%.
like just makes absolute no sense. I do want to with end on this part, but with two things that Ella's ex-husband said about the outcome of all of this.
Mm.
Jason said first, quote, he will end up having done about 40% of his sentencing sitting at the victim's house, which is
Oh,
incredibly frustrating, end quote. That thought, knowing that it happens there and he's still there, that's disgusting. That is disgusting. And second, this one right here, just like, what's the thing? Say it louder for those in the back. Like, this needs to be posted everywhere. But second quote, justice will be protecting women and children before they're harmed, not punishing people years after they're harmed, end quote.
barely punishing them.
Barely, fucking
But that's
barely.
exactly right. That's exactly the yes, Jason. Like that's exactly the point is that like she was failed.
She
Like
was
it's
failed.
by
And
society
she's
at
continuing,
large.
like it's
And she's
still,
still
yeah,
being you're right.
yeah.
Oh my god, that's heartbreaking.
This is probably the only part that you will like or appreciate. From my
Tell me he got
understanding,
knocked out in prison.
Jason Hans has custody of Ella's son, who would be 10 or 11 at this point. And I just hope that he is given so much support and love from the tragic loss of his mother and the fate of his father being taken from his life because of his own actions. Like,
Right.
he lost them
Oh
both.
my god.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's incredibly sad to think about. And there's Jason, her ex-husband, he works for the University of Kentucky. So, uh, Glenn had worked Eastern Kentucky University, and Jason works at, University of Kentucky. And he wrote this, I don't know if it's a poem, maybe it's a poem, but he wrote something about everything that happened. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I feel like, because I listened to someone read it, and he was given permission by Jason to read it, and that's the only reason I don't have it here right now is that's not really my place, but I'm hoping that I can find and see if I'm either able to read it or if we can get some sort of permission to read it because it is so important, and his words and the way that he talks about her is just so incredible, and knowing that
Yeah.
he's the one who has her son right now is the only thing that makes me feel any sort of happiness when all of this
Right.
is all said and done.
Right.
So, before we get into our afterthoughts, I do, of course, want to provide some information and resources. Ella's story is not rare. That's what makes it so devastating. 1 in 4 women will experience severe intimate partner violence. Nearly half of college women report abusive or violent behavior in dating relationships. 1 in 15 children grow up witnessing violence in their own homes. But behind every one of those numbers is a person who said they were in love, a person who said, oh, they're just having a bad day, a person who learned how to read footsteps in the hallway, a person who calculated their words to avoid an explosion. Statistics can tell us how often things happen, but they can't capture the sound of a door slamming, the quiet after a threat, or the heavy, impossible feeling of deciding whether to stay or survive. So knowing the statistics doesn't change them unless you change them. Abuse isn't random. It follows a pattern. It builds and builds and builds until there's an explosion. Then comes the apologies, the promises, maybe even the flowers. And that cycle keeps people stuck in hope and fear at the same time. Leaving isn't simple. It's complicated. It's emotional. It's dangerous. And more often than people realize, it's about survival. But here's what else these numbers tell us. They tell us people are speaking up and that survivors are reporting their abuse. We need law enforcement to continue being trained in these areas so that they know what to do, or so that they have someone to call who does know what to do. We need shelters to be better funded so that people have a place to go in their desperate time of need. We need men and women to know their worth and also be raised and grow up in a way that they know what is right and what is wrong. If you're listening and something feels familiar, the walking on eggshells, the fear, the justifications, please hear this clearly. You are not crazy. You are not weak. And you are not alone. There are safe ways to leave. There are advocates who will help you create a plan. There are people who will believe in you. And my heart breaks that Ella was doing those things and making those moves, and she didn't get out how she wanted. But please don't let Ella's story fade without helping you to know that you are worth it and you deserve a safe love. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, you can call 1-800-799-SAFE or visit thehotline.org to chat safely online. You do not have to do this by yourself. Ella's story matters because it puts a face to what so many endure quietly. And if telling it helps even one person recognize the signs, make a plan, or reach out for help, then her story becomes more than a tragedy. It becomes change. There will be resources in the show notes as always. You've heard the case.
Now comes our unscripted afterthoughts. That was so well put, Rachel. We, you know, I mean, unfortunately, I can't even count the number of cases that just our podcast has covered that include this exact thing.
Right.
And it's, as a society, I mean, it started with not even like seeing it as a problem, right? Like it wasn't even like
It was a disregard. It was
violence
just
was,
like,
yeah, it wasn't even like a problem. Like it was like, oh, okay. And then it's morphed into, okay, fine, it's a problem, but nobody wants to talk about it. It's behind closed doors. It's a personal issue. It's a domestic issue. And I mean, we're still, as a society, combating that mentality that, it's condoned, because there are still people out there who, fucking judges who are willing to lower the bond on a motherfucking violent offender. And that is the issue. I mean, just that act alone is telling women and men and any person who is going through this situation that they're less than.
And handle it yourself because you're not supported. If you
Yeah.
don't feel the support, if you don't feel like speaking up, if you don't feel like coming forward is going to help you rather than hurt you, people are not going to do it. We have to have these options and we have to have these safeguards and we have to have these judges or these courthouses that have things in place that are not going to slap a freaking alleged murderer on the
Exactly.
wrist
Yeah.
for the murder of his wife and the mother of his child.
The mother of his child. And that's what's so ridiculous is like when these, and like you, I mean, you said it, this is not a rare situation. And anytime, that this kind of shit is allowed, that it sends a message that it's okay. And it's fucking not. It's
Oh.
fucking not. And
Mhm.
it's there's so many failures across, like from the beginning to the end. And I think it's, you mentioned those statistics and we know they're underreported, period.
Oh, for sure.
And
Absolutely.
and so I mean, it's just such a I really appreciate the way that you really made sure to highlight that, you know, this isn't a rare thing. And it shouldn't be just another statistic. And it shouldn't be just another headline that you go, well, yep, there it is again. That we need to remember her name, remember her story. And we need to, yeah, make sure that, like, even if just one person, that's important. That's important. And I think that I really appreciate the way that you're able to you said that so well at the end.
I feel like
I was like bawling.
I mean, how you said we talk about this all the time and I never want to think like it would get easier to talk about it. It's never easy for us. And
No.
everyone who listens to us knows because we sit here and get angry and cry and all of these things and I wish I didn't cry as much obviously, but I feel so much and I feel so much for this because of a completely different reason as well. This happened in my own backyard. This happened
Mhm.
4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes from my house. Heather and I have been doing this podcast since June of 2022. We're going on 4 years. We're going on 4 years right now. And listen to me, I had no idea about this case. I had
Yep.
no idea about a mother in my own backyard that was murdered by a professor that the college 5 minutes from my home. Now everyone knows where I live. And it's crazy to me that I sit on this computer and I actively search mom related crime. And yet
Yeah.
one of them did not pop up that's right down the stream from me. It's not
Yeah.
until I saw an article pop up and I go, what the absolute shit? I comment on that. And then another mother that I know from my daughter's school goes, you didn't know about this one? And that's a
Yeah.
whole different story. And I will be talking about, she told me a couple things. It's crazy. There is more. We will be talking about this more. But yeah, it just blew my mind. And so I think that, you know, I felt a sort of weight when it came to the fact that it's
Mhm.
people in my own community, and that's how we should all feel about any of these cases that we're
Mhm.
talking about, right? Is like,
Mhm.
this happened to a mom here, and this person is just getting this slap on the wrist in my county, here
Mhm.
where I live. That could happen to this person, that person, anyone right here, and it is not okay, and that's how we should feel about any of the cases that we talk about. So, you guys, again, the resources are in the show notes if you need them. Our DMs are open if you need them.
Mhm. Mhm.
If there's not an answer, I can try to figure out how to find it for you. And I'm pretty good at researching some stuff, even though
You're
I
very good
couldn't
at it.
find something that happened down the street from me.
Well, and that's
Right.
that's the problem though, because clearly this was, I mean, it happened back then. He was able to just fucking hang out. He gets a slap on the wrist. It was downplayed
Right.
in every sense of the word, which is fucking insane.
It is. Yeah. Yep. That's for sure. You know, I no, I don't want to say that on here.
I just think that I think what you just said really resonated with me is like we've both covered, cases that are right down the street, right? And I mean, when you can literally drive by where this shit happens, it hits you. But when you think about it, every single case we cover, every single case that's out there is that for somebody, right? We all live in a community. We all live in a county. We all live, 5 minutes from something. And we need to like see that as like we are like this impacts all of us. Like all of us.
Yeah.
There's a reason shit like the Alford plea is something he can do because whenever back when somebody used that as a fucking excuse and now it's on our books.
And maybe
So this motherfucker can get a lighter sentence?
Can you tell me, do you know of a
maybe
case
there
where an
is.
Alford plea made perfect sense and that's the
No.
reason it was formed? No, you can't? Okay.
No.
All right. Now I feel like I need to only look into Alford pleas the rest of my life.
I'm interested now because we've come across, obviously, like the biggest one I know about is Michael Peterson. We did cover another case where Alford plea is in my head. And again, in that situation, I'm like, no, because look, if the prosecution can prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt, that is how the world works. Not sorry about it.
Right.
And we've talked about this before. I'm a huge reasonable doubter.
Yeah.
Right? Like that, it is the prosecution's job to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they're not able to do that, that is what it is. You are being judged by a jury of your peers. If they think you did it, you fucking did it. And I think that the craziest thing is that when you get to cop out and allow a plea for a lesser sentence without saying that you actually fucking did it, no. Own up, motherfucker.
Yeah. You know, this is besides the point. Here's my afterthought. We don't have time for mom talk, so we'll kind of end on this note because it has to do with my mom. She Apparently, jury duty out here is a little different than what I remember when I've been called in for jury duty of like, hey, you'll be called in, and if you're not called in by this date, apparently it's like 60 days here that you can be called in. And
What?
so she's been on, and you guys don't quote me on this because I didn't read her papers or anything. They were just kind of explaining it to me. But like even before she went to California, she was possibly going to be selected, and she got lucky she wasn't selected. And then we were out at dinner before Kenzie's show, and she had gotten a text saying you need to be at jury duty this day. And she's like, it's still going on. This is crazy. But my whole thought when all of this was happening was she could have been selected on this case that happened in February. If she would have, he didn't go to trial. They didn't need that since he took the Alford plea, but it's like she could have been one of the people and she wouldn't have known about it because we haven't talked about it. So she would have been oblivious and not known a thing and been able to sit through it all maybe.
That's it.
Unless she goes, well, my daughter has a podcast on true crime. Maybe they would have dismissed her.
They're like, get out.
They would have been able to search up if we've talked about it, and we hadn't. So I don't know, but it was crazy thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
and she still has a little
insane
while
thing
longer,
is that
apparently.
I was gonna say the first insane thing is that your mom has already been picked up for jury duty after having only lived there for like how long? The second crazy thing, because I think I lived in Los Angeles County. I don't count the time I was in college because I think technically my address was my parents' was like up north. But like I lived in Los Angeles County for like 5 years before I ever got picked up for jury duty. And so it's crazy, A, that your mom got picked up so fast after just barely moving to Kentucky, I feel like. And then B, it's crazy, 60 fucking days? No.
I know.
1 week. You don't get called, you're done. Like, that's it.
Wrong.
You can't keep me on retainer.
maybe they had to extend the time since all of these
Maybe.
cases get pushed a week, a month, a year,
Oh, yeah.
whatever. So it's like,
Exactly,
well,
yeah.
we need to start prolonging our request
That's
for our jurors.
crazy. You need to
Uh,
ask your mom, like, if she's still, like, on call for jury
yeah,
duty. That's
I
pretty
feel like
insane.
she
The
is.
last
She'll listen
time
to this and tell me.
Yeah, the last time I've been called, like, 2 or 3 times, and the last time I got called, I actually ended up having to go into court, because usually they're just like, "You're clear, you don't even have to report." I actually had to report into court, I think 2 times maybe, and then they didn't get to me and I got to go home. And it's funny because I've been called like 3 times, and Zach, who always weirdly goes, "I think I would make a great juror because I'm very rational and I listen to all evidence that I like of you." Yeah, of course, this guy, he has been called to jury duty once, and he has like had a LA address for like, like LA County address for God knows how long. And he's always like, "Why do I not get?" And he goes, "I'd be the perfect one. I get paid for being there because like his job pays for jury duty."
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a blah blah blah, da, 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 da." And I'm like, "You want like what a weird guy who
Right.
wants to go to jury duty? Like
So
he's
funny.
insane."
I have a
But
question. Do you happen to know if your jury duty came after you bought your new car?
ooh, that's a good question. I
So my dad
definitely
said
got
he
picked
always
up.
my dad said he always puts my mom's name on everything. That's why she always
Jesus,
Zach had his
that's
car
freaking
forever.
genius.
He's had his car for so long, so maybe
He has. That's what what's so crazy is, like, we bought his car back in, like, I don't know, 2016, 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
We still did not of course, both of our names are on that car. I've
Alright.
been called since then, and you know what? I
Did he
actually
put
think
your name first? I wanna know.
I don't think so,
No, I
and, like, that's so crazy,
it could
but
just be
I
a funny thing that my dad said, but it
because
has me
but they
questioning.
do it from your I mean, isn't that how don't they do it from, like, a something DMV records is how they pull, so maybe it is something to do with car registration. I
So
don't know,
funny.
maybe they go, like, alphabetically in the household, like, "Oh, Heather's first, not Zach." So, I don't know, maybe that is it. It's so funny because literally when I show, like, "Oh, I got another jury duty summons," he's like, "Ugh."
Hell no. I'm the exact I'm like, never. I could never. I could never sit there. I'll just be judging everything.
I say
I'll have 32
although
different scenarios in my head.
I mean, you know me, I am enthralled with like I love the process. Like trial
Yeah.
process is like so interesting to me. So to watch a voir dire like happen live, like in court, I was like, ooh, why do you think they're asking that question? That definitely has something to do with the case. Like they want to know, da 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 da. And because they tell you a little bit about the case. They tell you just
Right.
enough to be able to say, if you think you wouldn't be able to be completely not biased,
Right.
then if you've ever been a victim of this, if you've ever committed this crime, which you shouldn't be in jury duty anyway, depending on what the crime is, like blah blah blah, like they would release it. So to watch the voir dire happen and then see which jurors were released for which side, it was so interesting to me because I was like, this must come up in the case, that much must come up in the
Yeah.
case. And I just remember there was such a weird part where there was this girl who, like, she admitted, like, "No, I really, really want to be on a jury," because she was like, and they're like, "You're gonna get fucking kicked out if you really, really
Yeah.
want to be on a jury. They're gonna say, get the fuck out of here.' Like, what the fuck?"
Maybe
And
she knew
so
if she said that. I don't know.
I think she legitimately looked disappointed when they said, "And
Oh my
we're
gosh.
letting so and so go,"
That's
and she
crazy.
was like, "Oh man," and I'm like, because if you're
My
too
one and only
overeager.
my one and only jury experience was the one I was picked up for, and it was a murder case. So it's like the only time that I've never been called since. Thank you. Do
Yeah,
not want to be called.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, but there you guys have it. That is that case. Like I said, the
We'll need to
sentencing
come
is in
back for
2
it.
days. Yeah, in 2 days, and we will be talking more. I might either have on my friends who, like I said,
Yeah.
one had an encounter, the other had a different sort of encounter, but they're both kind of crazy.
But
Um, and then
we need to. We need
I
to do
know
that.
I need to reach out. I'm I even told her, I was like, I'll reach out. And then I've just disappeared ever since. It's normal for me. It's fine. We will talk to you guys next Tuesday. And until then, have a great week and talk to you later. Okay, love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
Shit. I knew I wasn't. I was like, as soon as I start reading, I know I'm not going to be okay.
Do it. You can do it.
I've got a ball in my throat.
Pop it. Pop that ball.
Oh, it's so annoying. It's like ridiculous.
So I'll go on and make a horrible British accent.
Don't do it. We will fucking get They will say never. Not only don't you're not invited anymore, you're actually on the you may not attend list.